Dear students, now we'll see about the different classes. Okay, so we already said there are different classes. Vertebrata, its classification last class we studied. Now we'll come to each class one by one. So we have the first one class that is called cyclostomata. Alright, so that comes in agnatha. So that is one class it has that is called cyclostomata. So they are mostly ectoparasites on fishes. Ectoparasites means what? They are seen outside the body on some of the fishes. Then they have 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits. So they have gill slits which are nearly 6 to 15 pairs they are having. That is used for what? For respiration. Then they have sucking and circular mouth without the jaws. So they do not have jaw. They have circular and sucking mouth without jaws. That is the cyclostomata's feature. Then they have no scales. So on the body they are having no scales present. Then cranium and vertebral column are, that is they have the cranium as well as they have the vertebral column. So cranium means the outer, your skull is having an outer thin bony structure called cranium and it has a vertebral column. Then they have their, and then what they are, this cranium and vertebral column, they are cartilaginous. Cartilaginous means they're very soft, not very hard. Now for us it's very hard, our cranium. For us, for them, cranium and the vertebral column are very soft. That is why we call them cartilaginous. Then they have the closed circulatory system. Though they don't have open, it is a closed circulatory system. Then they are marine. So they usually marine. But for what they migrate to fresh water? They migrate to fresh water for spawning. Spawning means for reproduction. So they go to fresh water and then what happens when they go to the fresh water? There they die. Then their larvae, after metamorphosis, they return back to the ocean. So they start from the ocean and for spawning, these adults are going to the, where are they going? To the fresh water. That is for reproduction. After going there, reproduction is over and then they die. And then the larva from the egg, the larva comes out. Spawning means the different stages. We have the metamorphosis, egg, larva, pupa, adult. So similarly, the larval stage. So during the metamorphosis, this larval stage, what does it do when it comes to metamorphosis? After that stage, it returns back to the ocean. So this is a special characteristic feature of the cyclostomes. Alright, so this they ask you in the examination. What is the special characteristic feature of the cyclostome? The adults for spawning from marine or from sea, they go to the fresh water. Then they lay eggs there and then they die. So those eggs, they will become the larva. When it becomes a larva, cyclostome in that region, in that particular stage, they come back to the ocean. Alright. So that is what after metamorphosis, a larva. After metamorphosis, the next stage is what? The next stage, pupa, adult. So when it becomes that later stage of metamorphosis, it comes back to the ocean. So this is a special characteristic features of the cyclostomes. Then example, we have the petromycin and we have the myxin. Alright, so myxin and petromycin are the examples. So we have the common names that is already there in the text that I will explain to you in the GMAT. Okay, the next class is called the chondrichthyes. So we said we have the, what are the two vertebrata? We have the agnatha and gnathostomata. Gnathostomata is having a superclass, that is one is a species, another is the tetrapoda. So species is having again two class, that is the chondrichthyes and the osteichthyes. So the next class is called the chondrichthyes. So this is marine, they are streamlined. You have seen fishes, head region broad, again it becomes thin. So they are streamlined, they have cartilaginous endoskeleton. Inside is very fleshy, that is why it's called cartilaginous endoskeleton. And then the mouth is located on which side? It is located on its ventral side. Then they are having notochord that is persistent throughout their life. They are having this notochord. Then the gill slits are separate. They are having separate gill slits. Then they have no operculum. Operculum means you have seen the sides of the fishes. They have the gills you have seen on the heads region and then they have a covering. That is what is called operculum or it is called the gill cover. So that gill cover or operculum is not present. Then the skin is having placoid scales. So this is one special type. So I'll be sending the details of it in WhatsApp. So they are having the scales are what? They are having placoid. They are called the placoid scales. Then the teeth are all what? They are nothing but modified placoid scales, and they are directed backwards. Backward is the direction of their teeth. Then they are very powerful. Alright. Then the jaws are very powerful. Then they are having the absence of air bladder. So they do not have air bladder. So what should they do? They have to always swim in water. Only then they can maintain the buoyancy. So they have to continuously swim in water. So otherwise they will sink or they will die. So that is why they have to continuously swim. Then heart is having two chambers, one auricle and one ventricle. Then the electric organs are there. In some of them, that is a torpedo. Then some of them have poison sting. It sprays poison on the prey. So that is in trigon. And then they are poikilothermus. Poikilothermus means cold-blooded. So we have homothermus and poikilothermus. Poikilo means cold-blooded. Other one is called warm-blooded. So this is poikilothermus. Then sexes, they are separate. Then in males, the pelvic fins, they are bearing claspers. Claspers means something to hold. And then their fertilization is internal. That means inside the body. Examples are the scoliodon. Then we have the prostus. Then we have the carcharodon. Then we have the trigon. So these are all examples for what? They are examples for chondrites, which is a class of the species. The next is a class is a osteichthyes. So the next class of the species is called osteichthyes. So they are seen marine, they are also seen in freshwater, both. They are seen in sea, that is a freshwater as well as marine. Then they are bony, having endoskeleton. So here it is cartilaginous, here it is quite hard. So that's why it's called bony endoskeleton. Here the mouth is again terminal. Terminal means and the end. Then they are having 4 pairs of gills. But here what they have? They have a covering. That is with operculum. They have the gill cover. Then they have water scales. Here they have a placoid. Here they are having the cycloid, or it is called ctenoid scales. It's called cycloid or it is called ctenoid scales. Then air bladder is present. Not like the other one. Here they are having. Then heart here is 2-chambered, auricle and ventricle. They are also cold-blooded. That means they are poikilothermus. Then sexes here are separate. Then fertilization is where? Outside the body. That is why it's called external. Then here the development is what? Direct. They do not have different stages. Examples for this, they are seen in marine. They are called exoiters and hippocampus. In freshwater we see they are called the labio and the cutla. Cutla fish you must have heard, isn't it? Then the claris. They are all the freshwater. Then you have seen aquariums. How many fishes you see in aquarium? So that is a, what are the different, this one, beta, and it is called a pterophyllum. So these are all examples for what? Examples of fishes seen in the aquarium. So this comes under this particular, that is called the osteichthyes. Alright, so this is what this class is called the osteichthyes. So vertebrata is having agnatha, gnathostomata. Agnatha is having only one class, cyclostomata. Then we have the that is a gnathostomata, again having a superclass, that is the tetrapoda and the species. Species is having the 2 class, that is the chondrites and it is called the osteichthyes. Then next is the superclass, that is a tetrapoda, which is having 4, that is amphibia, we have the reptilia, we have the aves and the mammals. So the next is the class amphibia. Amphibia itself, you know, amphibia means which can live on land as well as in water. So it is aquatic as well as it can live on terrestrial land. It is having 2 pairs of limbs. Then the body is having head and then it is having the trunk. Alright. Then skin is having no scales. You have seen frog is not having any scales. Then the eyes are having one eyelid. Then they have the tympanum. That is just representing the ear. Then the alimentary canal, the urinary bladder, that is a urinary bladder, and the reproductive tracts, they all open to a common chamber that is called the cloaca. So cloaca is a common chamber which is from the alimentary canal, from the urinary, as well as it is from the reproductive. So open to a common, that is called the cloaca. It's a common chamber. So that's called the cloaca. Then which is opening outside, that is the exterior. Then their respiration, it is by gills, sometimes it's by lungs, but sometimes it is by skin, sometimes it is by mouth. Alright, so if it is mouth, it is called buccal respiration. If it is by skin, it is called cutaneous respiration. If it is by lungs, it's called pulmonary respiration. So mouth, it is called buccal. If it is a skin, it is called cutaneous. If it is through the lungs, it is called pulmonary. So these are the three. So we can see pulmonary means it is through the lungs. Alright. Pulmonary means it's through the lungs. Cutaneous means it is through the skin. Cutaneous means it is a skin and it is having lungs. Then we have the third type, that is the lungs, skin and the mouth. So mouth, it is called buccal respiration. So these are the three types of respiration. Alright. So pulmonary, it is a lungs. If it is a skin, it's called cutaneous. If it is through the mouth, it is called the buccal. So that is a respiration. Then cloaca is a respiration is a. Then heart is how many chambered? 3 chambered. So they have 2 auricles and they have 1 ventricle. Then they are also cold-blooded, poikilothermos. Fertilization is in water. Always fertilization frogs are taking place on the surface of the water. So that is why we say on the that is external. Then development is indirect. They don't have direct development. They undergo different stages. That is why it's called indirect development. Examples are the buffo. Then it is a rana. It is a hyla. The salamander. And it is called ichthyophis. These are all the different examples of the class Animalia. Amphibia. Alright. So amphibia is having different, that is we already said, that is a tetrapod as an amphibia, reptilia,